Hello, everyone, and welcome to Build a Superpower Brand, how to translate your brand into real sales. I am so excited to have you here with me today. I know it's the middle of the day. I'm sure you have a lot going on, but I promise you it is going to be worth it. We're going to work really fast, so feel free to grab a piece of paper and a pen. I am also going to offer you a replay. So if you really want to stay present and just focus and not worry about notes, know that that will be coming out to you tomorrow. Just keep that in mind. Also, wanted to let you know that in your little control panel dashboard on the side, there is a section for questions. And I want you to know that at the end, I'm going to be doing about 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A. What I've found is that we go through so much information and there are so many aha moments that a lot of people just have more to share. And so what I want to do is I want to be able to give you some feedback. So just get ready to tee up some of your questions, but hold them please until the end. We've got a lot to cover and your questions might evolve as a result. All right, so without further ado, let's get going. So a lot of people find my enthusiasm around brands kind of shocking. I love brand. As a matter of fact, I have been doing some form of branding, positioning, marketing, and sales for over 25 years. And one of the things that I've noticed is that a lot of people are really confused by branding. They don't really understand what it is and why they should care. But I have to tell you that brand is a huge buzzword right now. There is a lot of conversation around brand, the importance of brand. And I'm here to tell you that we're going to spend a little time demystifying brand. What I want to be able to do is share with you why you need to understand it. So why are you here today? Well, one of these four, or maybe all four, apply to you. Your audience doesn't get you and you can't figure out why. I know that's a huge problem for a lot of my clients. You know you need branding, but you aren't sure to what extent. You want to understand brand and how it can grow your business. And you aren't necessarily that good at sales and you need your brand and marketing to help you. So why this webinar? Well, I'm here to tell you that great branding can make you money. So I'm sure you're saying, what? How is that even possible? Well, let me just tell you that if you want an iPhone, you have to get it from Apple, don't you? People that buy them typically love them and are willing to pay the price. That's why the price of an iPhone is double the average price of an Android phone. And the gap has been widening. And what about Louboutin shoes? They have red soles, an element of this brand's uniqueness. To those in the target audience, the red sole is desirable. As a result, the price of many styles are over $1,000 a pair. Even though there are many knockoffs, the originals are flying off the shelves. Bottom line, if your branding gives you significant uniqueness and desirability, you can employ a pricing strategy that optimizes your profits. So what are we going to cover today? Well, we're going to talk about what brand is and why a strong brand matters. We're going to show how you measure actual brand value. And we're going to talk about the difference between personal and corporate brand. We want to discuss why branding is a hot buzzword right now, so you really understand that. And we want to go over the elements of a brand. We're going to talk about brand image, voice, and promise. And lastly, we're going to talk about brand management, what you can do to actually manage your own brand. And one of the pieces to brand is your personal brand, who you are, as well as your corporate or your business brand. And one of the things that I want to do here is use myself as the example and show you how you encapsulate speaking about your personal brand as it relates to your business. So let's use me as the example. Why me? Why do I deserve to be the person moderating this brand webinar today? Well, my understanding of branding happened when I was 6 years old and I received my first Barbie doll. And it wasn't her figure that was so appealing to me, but the fact that I could move myself in all different parts of the country with her, across the world. I could ride in a car with Ken. I could change her clothes. And it was a magical fantasy. And from a 6-year-old point of view, I knew when I received a doll that was not a Barbie brand. As well, I knew which trucks my little brother had that were Tonka trucks. Tonka trucks specifically were, in my 6-year-old opinion, hardier and better construction. And how did I know that? Because it was the Tonka trucks that would destroy my Barbies when my little brother would run them over. When I became an adult, I got into consumer marketing. First, I started out at one of the top advertising agencies in Minneapolis called Call McVoy, but then quickly found myself on the other side of the conference room table at a company called Rollerblade. Do you remember the skate company from the 90s? Boy, did we have a lot of fun there. What we did is we created a lifestyle sport out of a product that had wheels in a straight line. I happened to have been on the events team, and one of the things that we were able to do was put a skate race on the Indy 500 track. It looked something like this. And not only that, but we were able to put Barbie and friends on skates. And we even had our skaters participate in the 1992 Super Bowl halftime show. A lot of people call this product rollerblades. I would imagine that you would as well when you're referring to it. But guess what? They aren't rollerblades. They're inline skates. And we did that. We created a brand so synonymous with the product that it's actually called by its brand name, similar to the product Kleenex. That's actually a facial tissue, you guys, but we always ask if we can borrow or use a Kleenex. And how about a Sharpie? Do you ask for a Sharpie or do you ask for a marker? These are markers, you guys. Sharpie is the brand. And then from there, I found myself as a top salesperson at 2 of the Fortune 500 builders around the country. I sold an average of 93 homes per year, and I won an Oscar for it. One year, I sold 144 homes in a winter climate when most people only sold 40. And it was during that time that I became a mom to one child, and I only had one by design. He is my whole life. And unfortunately, as fate would have it, I had to leave his father when he was only 6 weeks old. And as a result, I had to be mom and dad in my house. And there came a day when he was in 2nd grade. This is Joey as a 2nd grader. And I came home from work and he was crying. And I said, Joey, what's wrong? And he said, Mom, you missed this very important thing at school. I said, honey, why didn't you tell me? And he said, because you're never here. That was one of the hardest days that I've ever had in my career. And as a result, the very next day, I quit my corporate job so that I could focus on this boy that made my heart sing. Well, I had a lot of downtime when he was at school, and so I became an entrepreneur. And the thing that I wanted to do most was to help kids, and I found a need in the marketplace for children who struggle with nighttime fear, and so I created a complete bedtime solution to help them called Bye Bye Monster. Very quickly, Jenny McCarthy heard about it and asked me to plug in with her to help her with her Generation Rescue Foundation, which helped autism. She even hired me to create a private label product that she used as swag as she went around the country and toured. And then the phone started to ring by entrepreneurs and small business owners who said, I heard what you did with Bye Bye Monster, and I have the craft or a widget, but I don't know marketing and sales around it. Could you help me? And as a result, I created Retool Marketing. And I'm happy to report that my beautiful boy is now a college student and thriving. But I have his picture of those days when he was in 2nd grade on my desk as a reminder of why it is that I do what I do every day. And I share this story with you because we all have a hero's journey. And what I want to do is encourage you to really find a way to do some soul searching to articulate your own. Because You really, in order to build your personal brand, have to know where you came from and understand how the journey led you to this place. One of the next things that I want to ask is, what are you known for? So we know who we are, but what are we known for, especially in business, right? Well, in my case, I grow brands, and REMAX is a client of mine. I also created do-it-yourself workbooks to help entrepreneurs who can't afford agencies try and figure out some of this stuff on their own. I also wrote a book called Moology, which is a great branding and marketing primer for small business owners who don't know where to go to find a complete solution or one-stop resource for all of their branding and marketing questions. So I found a way to do that by creating this book to offer that to them. So who are you? What do you do? And why does it matter? You definitely have a point of view, and that needs to be articulated. You also have to be able to define your solution. And you also have to show up and share with people how you make a difference, because believe it or not, people buy not only the solution, but how you're going to change their lives and how you're changing the world in your small way. So if I were to pick up the phone right now and call you personally and ask you who you are and what you're known for, would you be able to answer that? If not, I really, again, encourage you to spend a little time to think about what you would say in 2 minutes or less. What would you say to me if we had that conversation? So now on to brand. What is this crazy word brand? This black abyss, this word that has so much use, but very little explanation that it actually can be defined. Well, first of all, it's not a logo. This is my good friend, Leo Melendez's business, one of his many businesses. He is a recently retired F/A-18 fighter pilot, and he works with leadership teams on a formulaic approach on how to lead. And so we created this business and this brand for him, and this is called the combination mark, where there's a design element, a brand mark on top, and a word mark below, and the two together make a combination mark. And we're going to talk about Leo a little later on, but I wanted to show you what a logo really looks like, but it's not brand. And second, brand isn't an identity. It's not how the mark is used or what the extensions are of your brand or the images that go along with your brand. And it's not a product. It's not your product or service, the thing that you sell, your widget. It's actually a gut feeling about a product, service, or organization or person. So take a look at these 4 very recognizable personal brands right here. I bet that pretty quickly you could tell me which one was a sex symbol of the 50s and which one is a triple threat, both in a songman, a dance man, and an actor. I bet you can also tell me which one has 6 kids, and I bet you can tell me which one has had strong philanthropic effort that really kind of brought to light awareness on charity. Well, how is it that we instinctively know this? Well, because of their brands. And in most cases, celebrities or A-listers have handlers who control brands, control their brand and how they're perceived in the marketplace. Take a look at these superheroes. Nowhere on here are any defining marks. You can't see their capes, you can't see their names. But I bet you can tell which one was a rich guy with a sidekick, which one was bitten by a spider, which one knows his way around a bow and arrow, and which one came from another planet with superhero strength. Again, how do we know this? And as I was talking about each superhero, I bet you instinctively were thinking about, oh, I like this one better than the other one. Oh, I remember seeing the movie and I really liked what happened here. Gang, that is brand. That's the power of brand, that you can in a glimpse be able to create a story and an entire dialogue around something and actually have a feeling about it, have this visceral response. So does brand have a dollar value? You bet. I just love this chart. I know that it's dated. It's back from 2001, but it's worth reviewing because back then Coca-Cola was the #1 valued brand in America. And this chart really sort of exemplifies how valuable Coca-Cola is, and for sure in 2001 was. Notice the bottom half of the bottle where it says Coke's market cap, not including brand value. Basically what that means is that if Coca-Cola were to sell their company, their employees, their recipe, their raw goods like their formulas and their bottles and their conveyor belts, the physical business itself back in 2001 was valued at $50 billion. However, if Coke sold in 2001 for real, its brand value brings it up to $120 billion. In other words, because it's Coke, it's valued at almost twice the amount. Can you believe that? It's amazing. And by the way, just as a little trivia, Disney bought Marvel last year for $4 billion. Yep, cartoon characters for $4 billion. So why is branding so hot? Well, people have too many choices in too little time, don't they? I mean, that is really true. There's so much noise out there and so many options that people don't want to be inundated with the choice. So they gravitate toward their favorites. And most offerings have similar quality and features. Rare is the unique, never seen it before product or service out on the market anymore. And so what brands really need to do is come up with things that are very different and very unique, even though they fall within the same category. And finally, we tend to base our buying choices on trust. We work with people and companies that we know, like, and trust. Trust is a very, very big deal. And I'm sure that you've noticed there are a lot of brands out there where maybe they do something a bit unscrupulous, and then we wind up losing faith in them, and then we wind up purchasing something else. When I think of brand, I think of this hodgepodge of stuff. And it isn't just the feeling, the gut feeling, but all of the pieces and parts that are brought together to actually create the feeling. And there are several elements to a brand. And it's my job to explain those to you, because if you have a solid understanding of all the pieces and parts, you can go back to your own business and you can create a brand that is going to get you noticed. Product. The actual widget, the thing in which you sell, the product or service, is really, really critical. Does it offer a solution, something that the audience really needs? And how different are you? Do you have a bigger vision that will appeal to the masses? And how are you positioned against your competition? And also, have you defined your target market? Go back to Coke versus Pepsi, for example. Remember the days when we were huge soda drinkers? You liked one or the other. You preferred the taste. You preferred their vibe or their jam. And back in the day, did you ever go to a restaurant and ask for your favorite brand and they offered the opposite brand? What did you do? Well, you didn't drink it, did you? No, you chose an alternative beverage, iced tea, water, or in my case, a shot of tequila, because you cannot believe that your favorite restaurant does not have your favorite brand. And the name of your company. Oh my goodness, I talk with so many entrepreneurs who just arbitrarily came up with a business name that does not resonate with the audience. One of the things that they did was created a name that resonated with themselves, when in fact they need to have it be understandable or make sense or somehow tie back to the product or service that they sell. And then once they figure out the name, build a visual identity, a logo, a color palette, imagery that really, really supports and solidifies that brand in the consumer's mind. And what is your brand's promise? What is it that you promise to do forever and ever? Amen. And believe it or not, people take a look at the character and the personality of the brand. They consider that before making a buying decision. I'll go back to my pal and client, Leo. Again, he is a fighter pilot and he's an amazing human being. He is so wicked smart and has gone through so much adversity and come out smiling on the other side of it that it would kind of blow your mind. Well, this man has taken his background as a fighter pilot and transitioned it into civilian life so that he is able to give us, just average, everyday people, the opportunity to get a taste of what it's like to have lived that kind of a life. It's amazing, and his story is amazing, and I would encourage you to look him up. Emotion. What kind of an emotion does your brand elicit? And what kind of an experience do I have if I work with you or purchase your product or service? And what is the quality? You know, one of the issues with quality is in brand and successful branding, you need two things. You need proof of concept and social proof. Proof of concept is, does it do what you claim it's going to do? And then after it is doing what you claim it's going to do, everyone's talking about it, right? Well, quality now becomes an issue. If you sell crap, people are going to say it's crap. And then you've got a real brand problem. Pricing. I see a lot of people discount or offer loss leaders. Loss leaders mean I'm going to give away all this stuff for free because I'm going to try and upsell you on the back end. Or they price too low or too high just because they haven't done any of that front end research stuff, you know, that heady stuff I was talking about earlier that nobody really wants to do. And then believe it or not, you guys, packaging really does count. I know that it gets thrown away. I know it. But I'm here to tell you that people really care. When I created Bye Bye Monster, this is the packaging that I created because when it was sitting on the shelves in the stores, I wanted it to have an experience with the potential customer. Barley, who is the stuffed monster, is exceptionally soft. I designed him to lay flat to be the comfort piece for the child who is afraid. And what I want to share with you is I designed the box so that the head stuck out. Why? Because I wanted the customer to touch him, because they would have an immediate connection to him, and ultimately that box was going home with the child. And then finally, distribution. How does your client or customer receive their products or services? And what kind of association and credentials do you attach yourself with? Because believe it or not, those whom you associate with become an extension of your brand. And finally, messaging. What is your message? What is your core message and your sub messages? What is the thing that you're saying to your audience over and over again to impress upon them the importance of working with you? Well, excuse me, take the dairy industry, for example. There were a lot of years where milk was not a good thing to drink, right? Well, what did they do? They created a sexy campaign called Got Milk, and they used every single A-lister with their tiny story. And I know you can't read it on my slide deck, excuse me, but if you go Google this, you can look at all of the different celebrities that were chosen and their story. And the story is how milk impacts their life. And it's kind of an incredible campaign. And as a result, milk's back in the game. One of the questions that I'm asked all the time is which way to go, personal or corporate brand. In other words, do I brand myself, excuse me, or do I brand an actual physical business? And my answer is always the same. It depends. And it depends on a couple of things. Number one, do you want your business to survive you? Do you want this to be a personality brand? In other words, it leads and ends with you, that you are it. And do you see yourself having employees down the road? This is my good friend, Deb. She is my friend and client and an amazing chef by trade. And her focus is on culinary medicine. And she's got an amazing story as well. And one of the unique things about Deb is that she wound up having to have both. Yes, both a personal and a corporate brand. Corporate brand, this is her corporate brand, Savor Culinary Services. Corporate branding is a they game. In other words, it's built and speaks to them being the audience. In other words, it's not about us, it's about them. So offerings are about them, colors are about them, imagery is about them being the audience. And Deb listened Her whole website is geared toward the audience, the user. Pressed for time, tired of eating out, want to know what's in your food, want to spend more time with your family. She is touching on the consumer's pain, and as a result, giving them a solution to help with that. She also has a personal brand called Chef Deb, where she mentors and coaches aspiring culinary leaders. And when you brand a personal brand, it's a we game. It's about us, right? Us as the expert. We have to position ourselves as a thought leader if in fact we are. In other words, in her case, we talk about her. Here are my credentials. This is why I deserve a seat at the table. This is why I can help you. Does that make sense? So brand is really the power of three. Three things that you need to take into consideration. It's image plus voice plus promise. So let's break them down. Brand image. This is a friend and client of mine. Her name is Travinia. These are two pictures that were taken 30 days apart. I am not kidding. The one on the bottom right was taken by a brand group that Travinia had hired because she was getting ready to be broadcast on one of the largest podcasts in the nation. And at the end of her presentation, she was able to say, and to learn more, go to www.doesnotexist.com. And so she spent all of this money to refresh her brand so that when all that traffic showed up, she was really positioned in the brightest light. And the further she got down the path, the worse things got. And then she heard about me. And then she called me up and she said, Kelly, I have 10 days until that broadcast. 10 days. And so I said, Travinia, don't panic. Get on an airplane, fly to Minnesota. We will fix this for you. And that's what we did. 30 days apart, you guys, this picture. 30 days apart. This image of her before and after is very telling. Believe it or not, Travinia looks like the picture on the left. She doesn't even look like the one on the right. So if she were to show up in print or online on the right, she's got a brand problem. And as a result, we fixed part of her identity as well, her visual identity, the old logo being on the top and her new logo being on the bottom, because what we were going after now is very, very specific audience. And it needed sort of that vibe that really took what she does seriously and matches what she does for a living. This is my good friend Christine, and she is a ghostwriter to the stars. This woman is a genius. As a matter of fact, she was my developmental editor and coach on my book, Moology. And thank goodness that she was, because I wouldn't have been able to do it without her. And what's so great about Christine is she is so humble. She just is in a place of service all the time. And as a result, she's very, very head down, serving all of her clients and not paying a whole lot of attention to herself. And even though we're pals and I preach the good brand word all day, every day, she was very, very busy and was busy in her busyness. And as a result, something kind of terrible happened. Some of her A-listers referred their celebrity friends to her to write their memoirs. And they landed on her before website, all excited because these clients and A-listers had just built Christine up as this amazing powerhouse in her industry. And when they got to the website on the left, there was this weird disconnect. They could not match up what their friends were saying and what they were seeing in print. And guess what happened? I got the 911 call. And what did we do? We took down the site and put up what you see on the right-hand side, which is a landing page where we are giving the sneak peek or at least a placeholder of what her new brand is going to look like, just to give us a little breathing room so we can get that brand built. But I'm telling you, what happened was twofold. One, she had to rush. Now all of a sudden there was a brush fire that needed to be dealt with, so everything else was put on the back burner in her business. And two, she had to do significant damage control to repair the perception that was not accurate. This is another client and friend of mine, Nicole. She's on the bottom left, and she owns a very successful wealth management business. And one of the things that's happening for her is because she's doing so well, she's getting a lot of press. She's being asked to speak in front of large stages, and she is on TV. And so what we needed to do was create a personal brand to work with her corporate brand. You can see her old logo on the top just doesn't quite pack a punch and certainly doesn't have very much personality. The one on the bottom is the beginning of what we're doing right now to blow up her personality brand. And I'm really, really excited to be able to be on that journey with her. This is a recent client of mine. Again, another wealth management company called Meristem. These are big guys in Minneapolis. And you can see their old logo on the top. They had primarily been speaking to the patriarch, the older gentleman who acquired the wealth. But along the way, the patriarch was going to transfer the wealth down to their Gen X child as well as their millennial grandchild. And what they needed was a brand that spoke cross-generationally across all three audience segments. And so the one on the bottom is that updated version. And as part of that image, we also needed an image library to support the new brand. I encourage you that if you do any tweaking to your brand, that you curate images, even if they're stock. All of these are stock, but just notice how they have interesting crops, and I do that on purpose to make them look custom. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have an image library that is an extension to that brand, because remember, we're talking about image, and image is visual. And then let's not lose sight of our personal life. I know we're talking about our businesses, but I have to tell you, you guys, brand does extend into your personal life. You know, social media is it's very present, and it's in real time. And anything you do in your life does show up somewhere online. This is a before and after of my son and his two pals. Every year when they were in high school, they wanted to, on the last day of school, go cut off all their hair. And I wound up always being the chauffeur. And inevitably, each year when we would go into the salon, both boys would have to get their mothers on the phone before the stylist would cut their hair. Even the stylists understood the power of brand. So now let's move on to brand voice. Brand voice is verbal and nonverbal communication skills and attitude. What does that mean? Well, it's how are you showing up on social media? LinkedIn, which is the more professional version, but then also Facebook and Twitter. And how are you crafting your emails and your thank yous? Do any of you handwrite thank you notes anymore? And do you start your emails with, hey there, or hi, or dear? You know, are you formal? Are you very laid back? Do you use superlatives? And your personal greeting, do you make eye contact, shake hands? Is your handshake very firm? Do you touch people on the elbow? Also, your email signature. I have seen such a variety of email signatures, and none of them are on brand. I don't understand how that happens. Maybe it's because of the email platform, but all I can say to you is if you are emailing someone and your very last impression is after you say sincerely yours, is their email signature that kind of looks crappy, you might want to fix that. And then your introductions. How do people introduce you? And then subsequently, what's your elevator pitch? When people say, hey, who are you? What do you do? What do you say? And while you're saying it, what's your tone and execution? Are you really excited? Are you high energy like me, which I sometimes have to suppress depending on my audience? And your dialogue and vernacular. Do you swear? Do you say a lot? All of those things count. I want to share with you something that I'm sure all of you have seen, but these powerhouse brands are in a breakfast war, Taco Bell versus McDonald's. And I use these guys as an example of what not to do. Because if I were them and I were on their leadership teams, I would be really embarrassed. Because remember, what they're trying to do is jockey for first position. They're trying to get our breakfast business, right? And McDonald's obviously is the leader in that. Whether we like them or not, they just are. They have the most market share. But Taco Bell wants to get in there and they want their piece of the pie. And so what they've done is created commercials and advertisement to bash each other, not to offer any kind of solution or value add or benefits to the consumer, but to make fun and bash each other. Taco Bell's recent commercial got a whole bunch of men in a room named Ronald McDonald across the country, had them eating Taco Bell breakfast and saying that they preferred it. Well, as you can imagine, McDonald's went crazy. And in retaliation, they went on a full-blown social media rant. And they put together this image, which is kind of embarrassing to Taco Bell, right? Because the little dog is in a very submissive position. And their subject is imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. I mean, that's really insulting, right? Well, guess what, you guys? This was shared over 2,000 times. People are watching these two companies duke it out through all media channels. It's kind of incredible. And finally, brand promise. Do you know what your brand promise is? I would venture to guess you don't. And that's okay, because brand promise isn't the easiest thing to articulate. Why? Because there are a lot of moving parts. Behavior, personality traits, your skill and level of skill, your level of engagement, the actual product or service, how the follow-through takes place, number of meetings and how those happen, overall energy level of the employees or the members in the business, your reputation, and certainly your character. Well, Geico's promise is pretty clear. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. That's Geico's promise. We could say that in our sleep. That's kind of genius too, by the way, that their promise is to save us at least a minimum of 15%. Who isn't using Geico? Seriously. But then also think about our political leaders, right? They have a promise, and oftentimes we vote based on their promise, based on what they're telling us they're going to do for us and our nation. If I can leave you with anything I want to say to you, just remember one thing. Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. You can control what happens when you're standing there sometimes, but what's more powerful than that is what happens to you when you're not there. What are people saying? You might want to do a little recon to figure out if it's favorable or not. So brand management, how in the world do you manage your brand? Well, let me show you a couple of before and after so you can kind of see how the evolution takes place. This is my client and friend, Susie Riley. She is one of the top producing real estate agents in the San Francisco Bay Area. And she was really clipping along, doing great business, and just simply attached her webpage to her broker, which is the one on the left. But then she heard about all these millennials coming on the marketplace and how they were really tech savvy, and she was a little worried. So she said, you know what, I got out my game. I have to be perceived, even though I am relevant, even though I was born and raised here, nobody knows this market better than me. If anyone goes to my webpage on the left, they're not going to know that. And so what we did was we took her from a personal brand to a corporate brand, rebranding her as the Riley Group, where she actually did have staff, which is kind of incredible that she didn't go that route to begin with. But we also created an entire website devoted to how the Riley Group can get you the ideal property at the most competitive prices. This is my client friend, Dan Griffin. He works in the addiction space and really helps men and recovery. The before on the left really did a great job. Did a great job when he needed it to, but he outgrew it. And he outgrew it because all of a sudden he became very well known in the space and had been asked by multitudes of individuals and corporations to come and speak and to help. And so what we had to do is we had to rebrand to a more intuitive website and visual identity as well, but also just allow the user to step into the site and navigate much easier. So both B2B, which is corporations, and B2C, which is the individual who needed that help and that assistance. Again, remember I was sharing with you my client Maristem, the Wealth Advisory Group. On the left, it worked for the patriarch. It really did. But now we needed to really up our game and speak cross-generationally. And so the after is on the right. There is some very cool interactive components to this site to hold people's attention so that they don't bounce. A lot of good resources, tips, and tools that are really meaty. And that's necessary, especially for the millennials, because they're doubters by trade. And then lastly, my friend Sean Marie, she had a great company called We Flaunt. And believe it or not, We Flaunt is a custom apparel and accessories business. Very, very successful business. But what she tried to do was she tried to cheat having two separate websites because she also wanted to be a business mentor. So she kind of hodgepodged it together. Well, what happened as a result of doing that is it now looked like vegetable soup. We don't know when we step into that site, is she selling apparel or is she selling business coaching? And so what we said was, let's strip it out. Let's just get really core to the business, create two sites and go back to the basics. And so the one on the right is all stripped out, beautifully done for her apparel business, which is thriving, by the way. So you need a brand plan, guys. You just do. You can't do this by osmosis. You have to have a plan. And I actually have a couple of solutions for you. So if you want to hang around after this webinar, I am going to give you something that I think might be really, really helpful, at least talk about it, and certainly no obligation, but it's just there for you. But in the meanwhile, one of the things that you're going to need to do is a brand audit, like no question. And a brand audit is not that easy. What you got to do is look at every piece and part of your brand. That's your website, your collateral, your messaging, your value proposition, who you are, how you show up, every single component. And you need to measure it. You need to audit it for relevancy and making sure that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's got to be a fine oiled machine, right? Well, how do we do that? Well, once we audit, then we want to arm for success. We want to do some planning, some research and analysis. How many of you have a business plan? I would venture to guess probably not even a third of you. Why? Because nobody likes doing them. I don't even like doing them. This is the worst. A business plan, and I'll tell you, there's a lot of experts out there who poo-poo this and suggest don't even do a business plan. There's even a book written about it. I would say what you need to do is, it doesn't have to be a 40-page document. It can be a 2-page or a 1-page document. But if you don't have a foundation, if you don't have something to measure against, what are you guessing? You're just throwing spaghetti at the wall and you're hoping some of it sticks. And that's not really great business practice. And the dreaded research and analysis. Nobody likes doing this either. Research and analysis is taking a look at your competition. And I would suggest you look at the top 5 to 7 in your space. And when I'm talking about competition, I'm not talking about the people who, or if you say to me, I don't have any competition. Nobody does what I do. I'm going to argue with that. And I'm going to argue with you on that because I don't believe that. What competition, true competition to your business looks like this. If you offer a solution, okay, if somebody needs that solution, who are they writing their check to? Is it you or is it something else? For example, let's say somebody wants to be in a relationship. They've got options. They can write a check to a relationship coach and have that person help them find their true love. They can write a check to Match.com and allow that platform to do the work for them. Or they could go to a bar and write a check to the bartender and pay for drinks and allow someone to approach them. Very, very, very different competition, but the solution is the same. And that's what you want to seek out is, who are those people, right? Those competitors in your space. And then you want to measure them against yourself. And how do you do that measurement? Through a SWOT analysis, right? Grossy pants. I know. So a SWOT analysis takes a look at your strengths, your weaknesses, your threats, and any opportunities against your competition. So you just grid this out, you make 4 quadrants on a piece of paper, and you just fill them in. What are my strengths in relationship to my 5 competitors? What are my weaknesses that I really want to be aware of? What are the threats out there that could tip my boat? And where are the opportunities? Where can I put a stake in the ground, really own a part of the marketplace? And then you want to build a strategy. That's brand identity and a marketing plan and a sales plan. You know, building a brand identity takes into account a whole lot of things. You need to establish what the brand essence is and what the attributes of the brand are. You need to create the visual and verbal identity, and you need to come up with solid positioning that sets you apart from your competition. You also need a marketing plan. I hate to say it. You need a marketing plan to support the business plan. Why? Because if you have goals and objectives on a business plan, how are you going to achieve them? What things are you going to do? What action items are you going to do to reach those goals? And I would venture to guess nobody has a sales plan. Here's the deal. You need to know how much money you need to make and want to make in any given period of time, and then back into that so that the marketing plan helps move you toward those dollar figures, right? And then finally, you want to get the word out through web strategy and email marketing campaigns and networking and a communication strategy. How many of you have taken a look at your website and done an audit on this? Specifically step through as though you'd never been there before, or take it a step further and ask your friends to do it, completely unbiased, where they step into the homepage. Do they instinctively know what you want them to do? Is there a crystal clear call to action to tell them where you want them to click next? If not, you've got to fix that, obviously. The other thing I would challenge you to do is check your Google Analytics for your bounce rate per page. You need to know what kind of activity is happening on your website, because this is your virtual storefront. People are going to check you out by going to 2 places, your LinkedIn profile and your website. And believe it or not, gang, they are going to self-select in or out based on what they see. And I'm not even kidding. So when you say, oh, no, I get 100% of my business by referral. Well, that might be very well true. But how many people do you not know about who are going to your website and checking you out before they even pick up the phone and call you? And if there are a bunch of people who are doing so, can you keep them there? Can you get them to pick up the phone? Can you get them to opt in? What could you do to change what's happening? Email marketing, do you have a list? And if so, are you nurturing the list? I'm not saying are you spamming them. I get a lot of emails that are junk, and I unsubscribe. What I want is a nurture. I want someone to say to me, I've got some advice or an opinion or information that is going to help you. And here are these golden nuggets. Where are those? Provide those to your audience. It will make a huge difference. And then networking, right? We all know the importance of networking. And I would venture to guess there's a lot of us who do it. But how much are you doing? I always tell my clients you need to do at least 3 to 5 coffee visits in person per week. They hate me for it. But I'm telling you, it works. Why? Because people want to trust you. It's very difficult to trust a person or a business 2-dimensionally. You've got to get out there and get in front of these people. When I decided that I was going to be one of the most networked people in Minneapolis, that was on January 1st of 2008. I probably had 50 or so LinkedIn connections. And I went on a quest and I said, you know what, I'm going to try and meet as many people in my city as possible. Why? Because everyone here is at least 2 degrees of separation. I should know everybody in my own hometown. And so I was doing 3 to 5 networking coffee visits per day. Not per week, per day. And I got so good at it, I gang runged them in the same coffee shop. So I would wind up having people come to me. I didn't have to drive all over the city. How ingenious is that? Well, fast forward, I only did that 18 months, that grind. And then I tailored it or toned it down and just did 3 to 5 per week. And I continue to do that religiously. And my 50-some connections have now gone to almost 5,000. And by the way, I have built my business on the back of LinkedIn. That has been such a pivotal resource on getting doors to open. It's unbelievable. I bet you're exhausted, right? Like, is your head spinning? Are you just going, holy crap, I don't even know what to do with everything that I just heard? Or all of a sudden now do you have this love affair with brands, right? Like me. I mean, are you in like me? Sort of, right? Well, what can you do? I have a solution. I have something for you that I think that you're really going to like. What I have learned in my 25 plus years of doing this work, that there are four core areas where entrepreneurs struggle. And as a result, I have created a do-it-yourself program series to be able to give entrepreneurs and small business owners the tools to be able to figure out some of this stuff for themselves, right? So they don't have to hire big agencies and pay all of those exorbitant fees. If you go to kellylucente.com, you will see that those programs are actually listed on my website, and I sell each one of them for $297 a piece. But you know what I want to do? I want to give you the complete DIY branding series, and I want to send it to your inbox right now at a considerably reduced rate. Now, I have to say that I'm only going to do this once. I'm going to do it here because the people who have showed up were so kind to do so, and I felt so compelled to give this background. And I really, really appreciate the fact that you showed up. And as a result, I am going to give you something for really inexpensive, okay? So as we go along, over on the right-hand side, when we do our Q&A, there is a chat box. And in that chat box, there will be a link to a sales page. So if this moves you in any way, no obligation, but if you feel something and you think that you want this level of help, just go to that chat box, click on that link, and you can buy the programs right there. So what am I going to give you? I'm going to give you my 4 brand building primer workbook series. You get Just Business, Brand Basics, Personal versus Corporate Brand, and All Things Design. So what does that mean? Well, Just Business is going to put you in that yuck space, that heady space of planning so that you can set the foundation for your branding efforts. Remember the SWOT analysis, and the competitive analysis, and the business plan, and all the gross stuff? That lives right here. I'm literally going to step you through every single thing that you need to know in order to get that foundation built. And then we're going to segue over to the strategy side, where you're going to discover the important elements of building a brand and clarifying your brand message, right? When I keep saying, what is your point of view? Well, you need to figure that out, right? In this workbook, we're going to talk about the importance of brand, how we build yours, coming up with your value proposition and your mission statement, and the difference between branding, marketing, and advertising, and actually build them, literally build them. And then there's personal versus corporate brand. We need to explore both options so that you can make an informed decision about which way to go. I'm telling you, this thing is chock full of dissecting step by step which way makes most sense for your business. And then lastly, All Things Design. You get a backstage look at the creative process and all of the varying components of great design. Why is design important? Because we as people, not you, but we generally as people, create visual things that we like. But remember, branding or corporate branding is a they game, right? Well, how are you supposed to know what they even like? Well, I happen to know. I'm going to teach you the importance of color. I am going to show you what a creative brief is. Now, most of you think a creative brief attaches to an ad agency, and that's not true. You need a creative brief to give to a graphic designer so that they have a roadmap to figure out how to create the logo that's going to appeal to your ideal audience. You can use this creative brief, and by the way, there's a full template on there for you, on building out your collateral pieces and give it to your web architects. This is such a great program for you to do a deep dive on how to hire the right graphic designers, what to look for in design without having to be one yourself. Because I tell you guys, if you are doing your own design work, one of the slides that I do when I speak publicly is I have a slide up there that says, unless you're a graphic designer, you're not a graphic designer, and neither is your cousin Sue. And so what this is going to do is shortcut that for you. So what's really great about them being workbooks is you get to work on them on your own time, work at your own pace, and the programs have been designed to allow you to work where you want, when you want, and on your own terms because time is really precious, right? And they're in a workbook format on purpose. It has been my experience that people learn better when they have to physically write versus taking a module online, an online course. These self-directed programs are designed exactly like a college course, only way more fun. Because I'm a creative, I infuse a ton of images to support all these lessons and give you real live examples to help with some of this understanding. And it's chock full of activities to help you uncover the answers related to your brand. Because here's the bottom line. You want answers. You don't want wave top. You don't want you should do. This is a let's get it done environment. And a lot of charts and forms are created with fill in the blanks with a lot of explanation, so it's really easy to use. And I am a real big fan of implementation. One of the things that I notice that holds people back is their inability to take action. And I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to help you realize the results that you absolutely need in order to have a flourishing business. Now, as I mentioned, each one of these programs is $297, right? So that's a total of $1,188, but I'm not going to charge you that. And not only am I not going to charge you that, I'm going to give you some things that are going to be super helpful. The first thing I'm going to give you is the Retool Marketing Brand Audit Checklist. Remember how I told you you needed to do a brand audit? Well, here is the cheat sheet. It literally breaks down visual, communication, and experience list of every single thing that you need to check in your brand to figure out how to do the audit by yourself. I mean, how cool is that? And I'm also going to give you the Retool Marketing Branding Process infographic. A lot of people ask me, what are the steps? What do I do first and second and third? Well, here it is. And third, I am going to include you on the Brandosophy Facebook page. What this is a private group where I do all the work. You can get in there and learn about everything that's trending in brand and business and marketing, and you can do lots of back and forth with your colleagues and fellow members. The thing is this, you need to stay focused on your business, working on your business. You don't have time to figure out what's trending and what's cool with brand. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to curate all of that information so you make one click, you show up when you feel like it, and you get all of this great learning. And I'm also going to give you 24 sprinkles, some inspirational quotes that you can use and download and push out to try and enhance some of your marketing efforts. But that's not all. I'm also going to give you the 5th workbook in the series called Events and Trade Shows. And here's what's really cool about this. This workbook is 57 pages and it covers 3 areas. How many times have you attended an event and not made any money? How many times have you had a booth or a table at an event and not made any money? Or how many times have you put on an event and barely broke even? Okay, we need to change that. And what we're going to do is break down all 3 areas of pre, during, and post, and we're going to get you to monetize every single event that you're a part of. So of course that program is an additional $297, which takes us to $1,485. But guess what? I'm only going to charge you for one program, just $297. That's it. That's it. One time you get all 5 programs. You get the Brand Building Primer Workbook Series. You get the Retool Marketing Brand Audit Checklist. You get the Branding Process Infographic. You get to be part of the exclusive Brandosophy Facebook membership. And you get 24 inspirational sprinkles and the amazing 57-page events and trade shows. So I got one more thing. For the first 10 people who buy, and I'm not kidding, I'm going to give you a $500 voucher for a one-hour one-on-one with me. We can go over your workbooks. We can go over your brand audit. We can do an audit on your website. We can talk about your branding concerns. We can talk about whatever you want for a whole hour. And you know I talk fast, so I'm here to tell you that this is a smoking hot deal. So If you feel inspired, go to the chat box. The link is there, and you get all of these amazing things. And so now I want to wrap, and I want to be able to turn it over to you and have you ask questions. How can I serve you today? Do you have any questions as it relates to what you learned today or about the programs? I am an open book, and we'll stay on the call for an additional 10 minutes. And those that have to go, go ahead. We are going to record this and send out the replay, as I had mentioned. But if you've got some questions, shoot them over. Okay, so the first question is, where's the link? The link, if you look down below the questions, I believe, it should be in the chat box. There is a box that says chat. Is that right? Hold on, my screen is spinning. Candace is on the line, I believe, and she is our tech gal, and she shared with me that it is in that chat box. It is underneath the handouts, you guys. Do you see the handouts? It should be there. So does anyone else have any more questions? Anything? I'm open. No? Nothing about the difference between personal and corporate brand? Nothing about, what about a business plan or your marketing plan? Well, let's talk about the difference between personal and corporate brand. I get a lot of questions about that. It's kind of a really, really tough thing to decide, you know, especially if you're a solopreneur. You're doing this by yourself, but you aren't necessarily a personality brand. Maybe you are behind the scenes. What I want to really understand is, what about your business is the deliverable, and how are you positioned against your competition? Because if we know who's out there, if your competition is branded as personal brands, we might elect to do a corporate brand, because remember, the idea is to do something different, right? Do something different, or maybe a little bit unexpected. If you plan to add employees, you certainly want to go in the corporate brand direction. When it makes sense to do that as a personal brand, it's after you have been globally or nationally recognized. It's kind of tricky to do a personal brand that way. Anything else? Okay, so you'd love to opt in. Here's one. I would love to opt in on the Brandosophy page. Okay, so if you want to opt in on Brandosophy, what you need to do is you need to go to Facebook and you need to connect with me. Kelly Lucente, KELLYLUCENTE. And once we connect as friends, I believe, you can then opt in to Brandosophy. And now that I'm saying it out loud, I might be doubting myself. Another thing you might want to just try and do is go to Brandosophy, BRANDOSOPHY, and ask to be a member. And of course, I'll connect with you right away. You definitely want to do that so that you can take advantage of all of the things that I post there. We try and do posts every day, sometimes more than that, just simply because there's so much happening in the marketplace. What else? Anything else? I don't see any other questions. So what I think we'll do, you guys, is wrap here. I have appreciated so much your time, your commitment to learning about brand, which is my very favorite subject. Don't be a stranger. Go to my website and opt in if you want to get free tools and resources. I'm always putting something out there at kellylucente.com, but you need to opt in to get that. And think about this DIY series. I promise you it will help. It will help change how you look at your business and how your business operates. The link is there, you guys. I can see it right now in the chat box. Feel free. If you want those, they are yours, and I am at your service. Thank you so much for your time today. I wish you a great week and hope to see you soon. Hi. Nope. It's just the circle of death. So I couldn't even, it looked like nobody was asking me questions, but in fact they were. My whole dashboard was frozen. And so I'm making questions up and then stop the recording. Do it and my cursor on it. Oh, for a moment. I have no idea. My screen is broken. I have people, media, well, because, I didn't even want to do this. This isn't, this kind of stuff is, so, so the fact that I survived this was like, and I found those, right. I don't know.